Extremely sorry for the delay. I would like to tell you about FSCAI. In 2021, September 24, we launched FSCAI. The purpose of FSCI is basically to share knowledge and also bring everybody together, the industry together. People like Mr. Nitin Nagrale have shown the way, shown the path that, how he can bring all these people together in 44 countries. You have done really, so you have inspired me a lot to come up with this idea. But then yes, I would give the credit to a few people. We had a awards night in 2019. Post that, Mr. Dayal Advani came up with this idea and he shared in the group that we should have an association. And then we started another association called IHSPF, where it's for the sales professionals. And then I felt very strongly that I have very good bonds with all the consultants, and then we should form an association and start sharing knowledge and our experience. So I would like to thank so many people here who have really come forward to support and like the idea and said it's really a novel idea to start this association. And now we are growing. We have done so many sessions already. Initially, we did a couple of online sessions during pandemic, and then we have participated in many exhibitions, have done, knowledge sharing forums, which is commendable in all the knowledge that consultants are sharing is really, and we have some international consultants who have come today. And I would like to honor a few people who have been with us from the beginning. And I would like to thank Sravan sir, Rahul, for constantly supporting Imtiaz sir, Sanjiv sir, everybody who have really contributed and have been supporting. Pramod Paleri sir, who's always constantly calling me and asking, kya ho raha hai next? Kya ho raha hai next? So that gives me a lot of boost. So we're going to very soon we're going to share with you the events calendar. We're coming up with a lot of events and activities. Also planning for international events and activities. We have some memberships open, so I would like to Rahul to come up on stage and share about the details in a brief manner. Sorry, we are running late, so we'll be very quick to start.
So our membership is open and we've got different categories of members. First goes for the individual consultant membership along with their companies or firms. The second is a corporate membership that's open. And we also have student membership and allied membership. All these details are available on our website, fscai.org. And we would request you to go through that. And in case of any queries, you can get in touch with our office. Yeah. Thank you.
Very quickly, I would like to thank our sponsors, Copy Machines. May I request Abhay to come up on stage, and to do the honors, may I request Nitin Saab to come up. Abhay from Copy Machines. Thank you for your support. Is Ashwin here from Gas Vigil? Anybody who wants to collect it on behalf of Ashwin? Okay. Nilesh ji from Apollo Kitchen. May I request Mr. Raj Gaikwad to come up on stage to collect it on behalf of his daughter-in-law. She's the owner of the brand Debonair. I think this is not the right gift for him, for her. Now you could give it to your son, not to your daughter-in-law. May I request Mr. Sanjiv Deshmukh to come up on stage? Deshmukh sir, please stay back. Mr. Sravan Kumar. Mr. Naresh Shani. Mr. Imtiaz Mistry. Pratik Gaikwad. Mr. Satish Dudeja. Mr. Amit Kumar. Mr. Eshwar Vikas. Is Mr. Hari Dadu here? Mr. Niranjan Singh? Thank you, Nitin sir. Thank you so much. May I please request our first three speakers to come up on stage. Mr. Naresh Sani, Mr. Imtiaz Mistry, and Pratik Gaikwad. So we'll start with Mr. Naresh Sani's presentation. So, please.
Good evening, everybody. 40 years designing restaurants, kitchens, back of house areas. The most difficult project which I have done just recently, after so many years of practice, was a kitchen which kept on changing every week. And you get surprised that how can a kitchen shape change every week? It is an experience which I have had where the client's space was in a 180-year-old building where the walls were 3 feet thick and they were crumbling. And the client says, do this in a budget of X. When I was telling them the cost of that project is 3X. Nitin sir, you will agree that even a foolish man will not take up a project like that, a mad person. But after doing a proper study of the premises, I felt that if I made the client spend 3X, they will never make money. But if I did it at 2 or 2.5X, it may just start making money. At 1,000 rupees a square foot rent in that area, to convince a client to share and give me 1/3 of that space was itself a daunting task. But secondly, how do you convince them to spend 2.5X also? Forget about 3. That was the biggest challenge I have ever faced in all my life. I have worked on this project 9 months to design and execute only kitchens, not the interiors. And I think I have reached it, and their client is also very happy that they agreed to my budgets to a certain extent. The carpet area of this restaurant was earlier 1123 square feet. By removing thick walls of about 2 feet each and bringing it down to 9 inches, I created space in the kitchen areas which were earlier to be about 300 square feet. I could get another 123 square feet more. Now if you take the real estate value of 123 square feet in a place like Kalagoda in South Mumbai, we are talking of a rate of approximately 1,25,000 to 1,50,000 per square feet. So that was my starting phase where I could convince them, look, if you spend for me 30 lakhs of rupees, I will increase the space from 1,123 square feet going to 1,278 square feet. So approximately 150 square feet more was created. On paper first, all budgets were finally fine-tuned, and I convinced them, look, I'm adding real estate to your space. They went back to the drawing board and they did all their calculations, and they sanctioned to me a budget of 1 crore 20, including structural changes and kitchens and doing up the entire back of house areas. So in the initial brief, the client wanted to have like a kind of a, I think you'll have all heard of a concept called as pret-a-manger, which is very popular in Europe, especially England, where people can come and select the food, see the items on display, as well as have it cooked for you and taken back home or eaten on site. And that's where we started this design concept, as you can see on the layout, that we had right near the entrance some kind of displays plus all kind of food cooking happening in front of you. So people would select the items they want to have it cooked, and they would come to the chef and ask him to prepare it, or they would eat it there or take it home to make it. But and of course the client wanted to call it, not to my choice, a place called Lay Low. Now, Lay Low means to just take and go. It also sounded a little Frenchy, lay with an accent, but it didn't really gel with me. But at the end of the day, we decided, look, let us just get the space in order. So as we went on developing the design, we found that it is better to have a back of house kitchen than to have a front of house kitchen, and the client said, no more of this lay low concept. Believe me, I've done 15 reiterations of this project in the last 6 months, and the actual execution started only in the month of April this year. Very difficult task because I had to put in the infrastructure for a restaurant with underground tanks, overhead tanks, kitchens, toilets for guests, toilets for staff, all in the same space. And therefore, after this, we went to the second to the second last design. No. Second one. That's it. In this way, we managed to get a back of house kitchen and a pickup from the inside of the kitchen. As the structure kept on changing, we found that we could get more width in the whole kitchen. And from there we went to the third and final design. Of course, another 11 reiterations happened in the middle. You can go to the third one, final. In this, the design is that the chefs are working on an island in the middle, and the food is being passed through a pass-through window. And this is what is being executed. We are at the final stages of fitting in all the refrigeration this weekend. As I am here with you, my team over there is doing the installation. And finally, in this 423 square feet, we have managed to give them a staff toilet. We received giving them a small butchery and prep area. We have given them a cold room. We have given them a blast freezer to bring down the temperatures to see that the refrigeration performs well. And we have given them a hot section. And if you see on the left hand side, a separate pre-prep, salad and sandwich section over there. So in a small restaurant which was to be a 35-seater restaurant, became a 45-seater restaurant. And that now the client has the confidence that one area which is called the Chunilal's Godown is now available also to them at a very reasonable price. So by the time we open the restaurant, probably it will become a 1500 square feet restaurant. Now talking of space utilization, literally every millimeter was calculated, used, and working circulation spaces were very carefully done. So that we have a minimum of 800 mm in the working spaces, minimum that is, and where the large circulation is, we gave about 1200 millimeters. So in other words, in a city like Mumbai, to use space so tightly becomes a massive challenge. Not only from the point of view of visualization of the whole operations, but also how to construct it correctly. And can you imagine, I had to change about 20 elevations 10 times to achieve what we have achieved today. As you can see, literally every tile is shown on my drawings. Literally every tiles, every corner protector, and every piece of equipment which is there is going to be installed in this particular manner with the MEP services, whether it is plumbing, drainage, electricals, very, very carefully created. Totally for this final design, we have made about 200 drawings, which includes, it was so complicated that even the fabrication guys could not make the drawings. I have made for every piece of equipment a drawing and given to them. Then only they could create it in the manner that we wanted. This is the central hot kitchen in which we have a big spline on the side. We got fryers on one side. We got a salamander on shelves. We have got the fire suppression system from Swastik over there. We have got the 8 burners in the middle. And we have the pass-through, and we have a small barista section in the front. So the waiters would come behind, pick it up, and the barista would there pass on all the drinks and other things in the front. I'm sorry, I'm rushing you all through it because it's a very tight period of time. We only have about 10 to 15 minutes. Next one. This is from the other side. Now, I don't know if any of the combi oven manufacturers will have the guts to see this, that their oven is going to be sitting on a shelf using a very compact oven, which is I think only 1 or 2 brands in the world are really doing that quality. We put it on a shelf, and that shelf is going to carry a weight of about 80 kilos, plus that is unladen weight, so it becomes 100 kgs. And it has to be suspended from the ceiling because I can't afford table space to give it to them. And the oven has to hold the shelf has to hold the torque when you are using a combi oven. So can you imagine the way this structure is being fitted on Saturday? It's very, very difficult. You have all kind of ducting running on top. You've got fresh air systems, you've got lighting, you've got ceiling, everything well coordinated. Very painful project, believe me. But I hope one day I can invite all of you all to come and have a look at it and come and enjoy a meal with me there. This was the dishwashing department, I think the most compact dishwashing department that I have ever created. It runs at about 6 feet by 10 feet. The smallest I had done earlier was 80, but this was the height. It's come down to 60 square feet. Yet I had to ensure that the expensive plates and other things that the client is buying doesn't break. So it's like a L-shaped operation, J-shaped operation, where everything runs through a dish landing, loading, washing, offloading. Later on, we'll be having a washing machine in the barista section, which will take care of the coffee machine, coffee mugs and all that. And later on in that Chulinal section, we're going to be adding the bar over there. Various section drawings, because being an old building, to take out drainage was another major issue. So some places where I had to raise the floor by 150 or 200, and other areas I had to raise it by 350 to 450. Just to ensure that the drainage from the kitchen goes through a grease trap. There is no compound. I had to run through a direct shaft to enter into the roadside municipal drainage and through a grease trap. You know very well that any grease trap which is fitted of any value has to have a height of at least 400 mm. So 400 was the target set at which I had to raise the floor at the maximum level. So you can see how it is done. There are steps in the kitchen, in the service areas, which is not connected in the functional of the restaurant, and we did it. So various sections, various levels, detailing for all doors, then all safety angles regarding dishwashing machines. If you have to put the MCBs in a different location, the socket or direct wiring into the machines, all were carefully crafted and fitted. And with a team of contractors who had never done kitchens before. So literally it was a hand holding at every step on a literally daily basis, either me and my team. Right now Amit of Rans has just delivered to me my back bar chillers and the plate warmers. And they are about to be fitted, but they are fitting being so precise, so I said don't do it till I don't come back. So that will be done on Monday. Storage cabinets, pre-prep areas, I could not afford to put in a budget of 2.5 to 3 lakhs rupees for a washing machine, vegetable washing machine. So what we have done is a veg washing sink, which has got a basket in it, sliding basket. These are small little innovations, which will help save cost in a project, but yet it will give me a perfect working system, which is to ensure that even in the iceberg lettuce, no worms will be remaining in them when you're washing them out. That's a cold room. We have a cold room over there also in this kitchen. That will take care of about almost 1 ton of foodstuffs to be kept inside. As you can see over here, I just showed you in that on the left side you have the cold room. I have a small waiter station, and then we have a bulk freezer to keep things frozen. I can't afford to have a large enough cold room for freezing and as well as chilling. So I give them one vertical because their frozen stuff is limited, but I've given them a blast freezer which is there in the middle, as you can see. Being from the hospitality industry, which understands what is shelf life of food, each item which is going to be put in the chiller or into the freezer had to go through a blast freezer to bring down the temperature to ensure the 3-day storage which is required in a place like Kalagoda. Section drawings for literally every section, every area was detailed out. So the clearances from hood, because the flooring was coming up by 400 mm, there was a limited height available. So we had to be very precise. And even in fact, towards the end, I had to modify the height of the hood from 575 down to 500 mm. You can see everything has been so clearly put in that putting in gas geyser became a big challenge. The height of a gas geyser is almost about 2 feet 3 inches. So to save energy, we had pipe gas in this room, in this kitchen, And therefore, even putting a gas geyser had to be very carefully done because it has to have its own exhaust. Come. This is the view from the front where the pickup is going to be. There are heat lamps on the top and there's a pass-through below. So at any given time, 4 plus 4 plates can be kept piping hot food for pickup. I had to have a very efficient pickup, otherwise to handle even 65 seats, which is going to become finally this restaurant, we would never be able to handle it. So I had to plan for 65, build for 40. It's quite a challenging thing when you're thinking of each millimeter of space to be used. And that's the barista section. Suddenly my client turns out to me 2 days back and tells me, I want kombucha, I don't want a garbage bin over there. So I dedicated literally about 2 hours yesterday to understand what can a kombucha machine minimized sized be, with maybe even one flavor. Now I have to remove that garbage bin. He said, I don't need a garbage bin near the coffee machine. And therefore, this was the last change which I have done just 2 days back. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope this gives you a little idea of what are the challenges of using space. And if we can't do it correctly, in today's times of post-COVID, A, budgets, B, challenges from the client, and ever-changing menus as the time is changing. And so in a period of 11 months, we are on change number 16 at the fag end of the project. I've done my best to do for them. Please pray for his success. He's a very young restaurateur, being a nephew of a running restaurateur, and hence I need all your support and guidance also. Next time we can do something better. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for finishing on time, running short of time. May I request Pratik Gaikwad to come up on stage and make his presentation?
Excuse me, can I get a presenter? Slide change. Right. Thank you, Naresh, sir, for that insight into design. And since we're running short of time, I'm going to be taking my presentation a little faster, and I'll keep it brief. So I'm going to be talking about the art of kitchen design, which is the balancing form, function, and feasibility towards commercial kitchens. Yeah, sure. Right. Just a small overview as to the topics I'm going to be talking about today. We're going to talk about all the basic requirements starting from your client inputs towards the MEP services and the engineering services which we do, towards safety systems and as well as towards the handover of the project. You know, that handsome guy is me, by the way, so. Sorry, just give me a second. Excuse me. Sorry about that. I think you can help me change the slides if that's okay. Your remote is not working. Page 2. Start from the starting again, it's all right. It's okay. So this handsome guy is me on stage, so thank you very much for that. Okay, so a little bit about us before we start. We're a 25-year-old company. Mr. Raj is the principal consultant. I am the technical head, and I take care of MVP services, HVAC services for the project. And we worked with, luckily, we've been fortunate to work with the top Nifty 50 companies, and we're more than 600 projects sold. So let's get into the first stage. So when we start a project, no two projects in any kitchen, as our esteemed panelists and our consultants here would agree, that no two projects are the same. So we try to adapt to what our client requires in terms of two needs, in terms of the architectural requirement, as well as in terms of the client or the facility team requirement. So normally we expect for our mega projects a form of a DBR, wherein the client puts in his requirements in terms of the basic requirements as far as the facility management team, in terms of basic equipments, etc. The type of operations that they have, the number of meals per day, the number of packs they are catering to, as well as the preference of different cuisines. Coming to the architectural and the geographic requirement of the project team, we need to know where the project is located. Most of our mega projects are located in remote areas where there is not a close proximity to the markets in terms of raw materials. So in such cases, the size of our stores, etc. would differ. The different site conditions. Normally, a kitchen consultant comes on board at the start of the project, but there's quite a dilemma because in some projects, we come at a stage where the building is already designed or planned for a certain extent. So it's things such as your sunken areas, your space for your ducting for your HVAC ducts, then provision of a gas bank in the close proximity as per your NBC standards or your IS 6044 standards are challenges we usually face. So once we have a lockdown on our client requirement DBR, on our architectural and project requirements is when we can move towards working on a block plan for the client. Right, so the first stage, once our client DBR is in, we form something called as a block plan, in which we create a small overview of all the operations that we undergo for our commercial kitchen. We do not get into the detailing, it's just a block plan highlighting the different areas to ensure that we are in sync with our architect as well as our client. So once we are on the same level, this is just a small overview from your receiving area to your storage, to the prep, to the packing and the dispatch area, to the FOH services areas, including the waste management services, etc. So we work on that entire plan and we put it forward to our client to ensure that us, the client, and the architect are all on the same page. Right. One thing that we always keep into mind whenever we're designing any kitchens, or the 3 M's of the kitchen, is a feasible and a good man-material movement to avoid any form of crisscrossing, duplication of equipments, and to have a seamless flow throughout our kitchen. So just a small overview of all the areas that we've covered so far. We've got our client input. We understood what the architectural needs in terms of design. We've prepared a block plan, presented it to the client, got approvals on that. That's when the real area and the real work for the consultant begins. In terms of the detailing, the MEP plans, the section plans, the technical data sheets. We're on stage 3. Again, I'll not go through it in detail, but this is an all overview. You have your MEP services, your section drawings, your HVAC plans. In case of mega projects, we also work with Siemens control modules to create an integrated safety system with our firefighting partners, Swastik or Gas Vigil, Ambertronics, etc. In terms of projects which there are multiple buildings and more than 20,000, 30,000 people eating at one time, to have a strict coordination with the building BMS and all the different drawings which go in. Now, one thing that we've come to realize that once our kitchen detailing is done, the work is started in terms of MEP planning, in terms of services. You know, for the upper management team, as well as for the architects, a lot of architects we're working with are now more of a Gen Z, so they haven't really worked with a lot of kitchen consultants. So what we've started doing is we've started creating a visual concept to scale for our architects and for the upper management of our clients. So a few projects of 3D renders that we made. Again, all of these renders are to scale and for our clients. So it gives the architect an idea of what the end product would be rather than just simply referring to a section drawing or a layout plan. So when they're planning out their interiors, getting an idea, they can work using around these. Now, one point. Now, once our kitchen has been designed, we need to understand what our client is. So when it comes to the capex cost or the cost to the client in terms of equipments is where the majority of the cost comes into play. So the right balance of custom fabricated equipments, imported equipments, and special purpose equipments. These depend on the client input and on the capex requirements of the client. Obviously, every client is different. If I'm working on a corporate cafeteria where it's a facility requirement, I'll have maybe a 70% focus towards custom fabricated, locally made equipment, with a few equipments towards imported, such as your combi ovens, dishwashing, pot wash machines, etc. When I have hotels, I'll obviously, depending on the front of the house, I'll have a lot of space for imported equipments, special purpose equipment such as, your servery counter equipments wherein you have portable salad counters, cold movement counters, live counters, etc. So the right balance is where, the role of the consultant comes into play and we can help our client determine the right cost for the project. Services planning. So this is where my forte lies in our company. This is pure engineering, and it doesn't matter if you're getting a Molteni or if you're getting a custom fabricated locally made equipment. The site needs to have all the services in play, especially in terms of HVAC, in terms of plumbing and electrical requirements. Majority of the areas where we focus on always have some form of plumbing or HVAC requirements wherein it does not play in well. So even if you have the world's most costliest equipment, if your MEP is not in line, it could always be an issue. I'm not going to take up much time. In terms of architectural requirements, we share section drawings with our architects along with the 3D renders with help in terms of what material they could be using. So they can decide the kind of Korean that they want or marble or granite, but we help them with the thickness, the MOC details, etc. We do this as vendors to the client. So like I said in the start, we take on turnkey projects, not just the consulting bit, which Rajsa does. We take on the execution bit. So that's where our role comes in. We help the client determine the right material. We turn out the feasibilities in terms of equipment, ventilation, etc. So we help the client determine the right material, the right thickness, and we review it with the client in terms of FOH for the architect. Electrical, we help calculate diversity factors based on the kitchen operations. In case there is another consultant involved, we understand their operations and we determine the entire diversity factor to help reduce the cost on your total transformer, the panels, etc. You could save up to almost 30 to 40% based on these minor calculations. Plumbing. So plumbing is a really crucial area. You need your sunk area. In case those are not available, a lot of kitchens you face the plumbing contractor does not see the need for P-trap. So we've developed gratings. We've used one in Johnson's project as well. This is the first one we did. So we've made a grating with a built-in P-trap. So there's no return of smell or in return of water flow in our kitchens. So we've done that. So we keep on coming up with different solutions as far as plumbing is concerned, in case there are no P-traps to prevent odor, smell, prevent return flow of water, etc. And my favorite is HVAC. I was discussing it with one of our panelists today. So, all due respect to all the ASHRAE members here, but ASHRAE focuses on a very crude method wherein they calculate the area based on the square feet of the duct. What happens in such a case is that it'll always work for you because you're overestimating. If you need 300, you're providing 500 in terms. So the standards we follow when we're doing HVAC contracting only for kitchen areas, we follow VDI standards, which are German. So there we have calculations based on your hood area, the space below the hood, height at which the hoods are placed, the kind of baffle filters, the heat emitted in form of radiant from the burners based on the burner that you're doing, then also in terms of the effluent heat which is there throughout the kitchen. So we calculate these factors and we save up to almost around 25 to 30% in terms of CFM by using the VDI standards of Germany. A lot of companies like Halton, etc., all over the world are following these, and we can help reduce the overall size of the ducting wherever we have an issue. Kitchen safety systems, like I said at the start, are friends from Swastik, Ambitronics, Gas Vigil. So for mega projects wherein you have more than 50,000 meals, 25,000 meals, multiple cafeterias, eating spaces, we form an integrated system including the fire suppression, the gas leak, the piping and the exhaust. We integrated using Siemens control modules. We've partnered up with Siemens for this, for our bigger projects to ensure a 360-degree safety system. It talks to your central fire alarm system, to your BMS system, and it integrates with it. So your kitchen becomes a part of their overall system. It's a neglected area in a lot of kitchens because, today we see a lot of projects wherein they don't ask for even the basic things as fire suppression, which is very important. But gas detection system, integration between these services is also equally important. So that brings us to the end of my presentation. Thank you so much. And I think if you guys have any questions, you guys can find me somewhere in the audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Pratik. It was a very nice presentation. May I request now Mr. Imtiaz Mistry to come up and make his presentation.
Next slide, then good evening, everybody. I'm Imtiaz Mistry of. Good evening, everybody. I'm Imtiaz Mistry of Mistry Associates Hotel Consultants, and our firm specializes in the designing of kitchens and back office areas, facility plannings, largely for hotels, institutions, and hospitals. My presentation today is basically on like a case study on the modernization of a traditional club kitchen, and basically it's largely plans and drawings, so I hope they come across okay. This was a South Bombay club. You know, clubs have existed from the British times, and it was a very sparse, old-fashioned, under-equipped kitchen. I'll just show you a quick scenario of the exist as it was before. Next slide. Yeah. Basically, it's difficult to visualize in such drawings, but basically it had an Indian section, it had a continental section, a tandoor section, an apology for a butchery and a veg prep, a small stores, and a bakery and confectionery, which was split into two parts. The mandate was to move ahead. The next slide. The mandate was, next slide. The mandate was, no, one behind, one back. Go back. Please go back. Yeah. The new scenario basically was to create these different zones, a receiving area, a stores, F&B offices, staff facilities, veg prep, butchery, bakery and confectionery, a kind of snack department, and the cooking sections breaking into tandoor, Indian, South Indian, a festival section, you know, because the club from time to time has different festivals, a Pasi food festival, Maharashtrian food festival, depending on, and an international or continental section, and a bulk section. So this was basically our mandate. Can we move to the next slide? So this was basically what we created. There were different sections. I'll just go into the individual slides, which will be easier to understand. Next slide. Firstly, we started off with a proper receiving area where goods could come in. You have twin sinks for receiving, a vegetable washer, weighing scale, and a small time-come receiving office. So the receiving was also done here, as well as the staff entry was also done here with receiving racks and a security guard doubling for looking after the time office as well as receipt of materials. Next slide. Now this was the main stores, a proper store with slotted angles, with pallets for the bulk stores. The grinding area actually is closer to the kitchen, and a walk-in chiller for the main stores and the walk-in chiller for the main kitchen. And there would be place for the staff to basically sit because everything is computerized. Next slide, please. Now the next thing was a veg prep and a garde manger. The veg prep had its own walk-in chiller and basically chopping cutting tables and a vegetable processor, and of course sanitizing sinks for the cutting boards. Similarly, the butchery had the same sanitizing sinks for cutting boards, basically a meat mincer, and instead of a bone saw, since we were not getting full carcasses, what we call a poultry cutter, which could be used for cutting chicken, as well as joints like shoulder of lamb or leg of lamb as such, and proper refrigeration. Next slide, please. Bakery and confectionery, the hot zone having a proper 3-deck oven with a proofer below and steam generation on one deck, a combi oven, a small induction plate for melting chocolate, and of course the trolleys for the baking trays. The confectionery side had the planetary mixer, dough kneader, tabletop dough sheeter, working tables, and basically other sides were basically refrigeration, a small pot wash, and basically a small chocolate working area also. Next slide, please. Now the club basically has rooms as well as accommodation on the other side of the road, so there are room service orders going on throughout the day. So we had actually created a proper snack area where the hot kitchen has sandwich grillers, a small pizza oven, a 4-burner range, and refrigeration for snacks and breakfast throughout the day. And the chef's office, one of the supervisors was dedicated for taking the room service orders. And the rest of the place basically had refrigeration, coffee machine, salamander, Even the bread slicing machine was insisted upon being located here so that the bread slicing could be done here, because fresh breads are used for the sandwiches and stuff like that. And of course juicers, centrifugal and other juicers. So this became a full-fledged snack area catering largely to room service orders. Next slide please. These are typical sections. Each section that we took in the cooking would have its own pickup counter and its own work table with under-counter refrigerators. So we had a tandoor section, we have an Indian fry pan section, with each one of them having their own refrigeration and the pickup on the front. Next slide please. We had a South Indian section, which is a very popular section, a normal 2-burner range, a dosa plate, an idli steamer, and again its own refrigeration and work table space. The festival section was basically burners which could be used by any of the other departments in case of pressure of orders. The international or continental, as we used to call it, with deep fat fryer, griddle plate, a 4-burner range, and of course what's essential nowadays, a combi oven, and basically pickup counters. Next slide please. This was the bulk section, one tilting pan, one boiling pan, and basically low height burners with its own refrigeration, assembly tables, because this is where the food would go to some of the small party rooms that they have, and a walk-in chiller largely for the bulk section, and a pot wash for the large pots that will come from the bulk section. Next slide please. This was basically a mechanized dishwasher area, and the main mandate was all the F&B offices were located very far away, because the club is spread over several acres. So we brought the banquet office where banquet bookings would be handled, an F&B office where the F&B manager could sit, as well as assistants, and the chief of hospitality basically sitting out there. These were the basic things that we tried to do. If you can go back, there's no further slides. Next slide. Can you go back right to the beginning slides? There's just one last thing I want to bring in. The first slide. Next one. Next one. One more. Yeah. Basically at the bottom, if you see, we also brought some staff facilities close by, because they found a lot of staff were disappearing for toilet breaks and cigarette breaks. So we actually made toilets close by, which could be used by the kitchen staff instead of going to the common facility. So this is basically my presentation. We just had to run through it very fast. Thank you so much, and thanks to Rajesh and his team for the queuing and the slides. Thank you.
May I request Mr. Sravan Kumar to come up on stage? And thank you, Imtiaz sir. I would like to honor 3 more people very quickly. May I request sir to please? And, may I request Rahul Talwar to come forward? Thank you, Rahul, for all your efforts. Is Varun Bajaj around? Sorry, not Varun Bajaj, Varun Shah, I'm sorry. Varun Shah, please come up. Last year when we launched FSCI, he was the first person to support us in sponsor. Thank you, Varun, for all your support. Last person, I would request Mr. Pramod Polleri to come up on stage. He's been constant support. So this is to celebrate your birthday, which is tomorrow. Happy birthday to you. Happy 60th birthday to you. Over to Sravan sir.
Can you hear? Is this working? We promise an extremely impactful and a very, very engaging panel discussion. So it would be very appropriate if you stay back and add value as well as derive value. I'd like to invite my panelists. PowerPoint, please. Next slide. Next slide. Now this is a topic that we have chosen for today's panel discussion. It is a fact and it is a sad commentary that in a country like India, we do not have any standards or codes for kitchen equipment fabrication. So we have the topmost of the manufacturing industry as well as the lowest end of the spectrum street side fabricator competing in the same project with mixed results. So we thought we'll throw some light on this topic and we will also engage in a very purposeful discussion and we will move ahead. Next slide. This is me. I am a practicing hospitality consultant and we'll talk more about me later. Next slide, please. Mr. Kumar, who's a founder, chairman of the Continental Kitchen Equipment India. He was also the founder of Hot Remai and remains honorary president. He was to have joined us in a panel discussion today, but he's from post-COVID symptoms. He had requested absence from today, but we'll miss him today, maybe in some other time. Next. May I invite Mr. Sanjiv Deshmukh, please. Mr. Sanjiv Deshmukh is the owner of Kitchen Solutions, a consulting firm based in Bombay and operating out of Bombay. Without going into too much of description about him, he is now the consultant of all the kitchens and dining services and facilities in the Government of India Central Vista Corridor project. Here is Mr. Sanjiv Deshmukh. Sir, please have a seat. We can sit anywhere. No issues. Next. Mr. Satish, Dudeja. We have an engineer who's turned an entrepreneur. He brings in an entirely different set of expertise into this panel. As we go along, we'll see. Many of you would have seen him for many a time in this exhibition. He co-founded Cellfrost in India. Now he's the co-founder of Trufrost in India. He worked with Middleby Corporation after selling Cellfrost. Please sit. Once Cellfrost had become extremely successful, that was sold to Middleby Corporation, and then Middleby Corporation has retained his services. And after a certain time, then now he is a co-founder of Trufrost. I'm sure quite a few of you have seen him. We have requested him to be on this panel to bring in a fresh perspective of an entirely niche subject. Please. Can we have Dr. Nitin Shankar Nagrale? Where is he? Yes. This is very interesting. I'm sure, next slide please. I'm sure many of you will have difficulty reading that. Even I had difficulty reading. I had difficulty in fitting in his description into one slide. I'll just read 2-3 lines. He's the world's first person to have completed Hotel Purchase Manager certification from AHLEI. He started a group of materials professionals from the world over, which has got more than 40,000 members. And he's the founder and general secretary of the Hospitality Purchase Managers Forum, which has got more than 6,000 members. And he brings in a great experience of more than 20 years into the hospitality industry, handling procurements, purchases, materials management with the top line brands. And he's got more than 20 awards. Maybe offline we can discuss what kind of an award. It's something very strange. Next slide, please. Can we invite Mr. Amit Kumar, please? Mr. Amit Kumar is a director of RAND's team. He brings in 20 years of manufacturing experience of kitchen equipment onto this panel discussion. And he has seen it from the beginning, and he had seen it how the kitchen equipment manufacturing has evolved and how we are moving ahead. We'll listen to him. Then, may I invite Mr. Eshwar Vikas, please? Where are you? Mr. Eshwar Vikas is a co-founder. Next slide. Yeah, that's it. Mr. Eshwar Vikas is a co-founder of Mukunda Foods, a company which is about 10 years old. Look at him. I think he's already with the company for 10 years. And they have built 2,000 clients base. And Supreme Court of India functions 193 days in a year. And if we count the number of working days, I think in the last 10 years, they've added a client every day. They've added a client every day. I thought initially it would be 2000 installation base, but then I realized it is not 2000 installations, it is 2000 clients. So if we actually convert that into installations, I think that will go into something like 10,000 installations. But to give credit to him, they have done fantastic work in kitchen automation. They've also come up with very compact food preparation machines, and they work extensively in kitchen automation. Now this is the composition of my panel. I am extremely happy to do this. Now, next slide please. I'll tell you gentlemen, we have panelists here. We will have one pointed question to each panelist. Based on their domain expertise, we have identified certain questions, what we would like them to talk and we would like all of you to hear. Once they do that, we will also have a few generic questions and then we'll open the forum for the audience. Please feel free to ask any kinds of questions. The next slide, please. Now, my question goes to Mr. Sanjiv Deshmukh. Sir, the kitchens themselves or the commercial kitchens themselves are a very recent phenomena in India in the hospitality industry. I think maybe the oldest kitchen in Indian hotel may not even be 100 years old. So maybe about 50, 60 years or maybe at the most about 70 years. In this kind of a scenario, when the kitchens themselves are a very, very recent entrant, how did the concept of a kitchen consultant happen? Did it happen by accident? Does it happen by design? And then the next part is a kitchen designer or a kitchen consultant is a very interesting character. He's not an engineer, he's not a chef, he's not a cook, he's not a finance specialist, but he has got a role in determining the capex, the revenue and the opex, as well as the operating efficiency of a food business operator. Can you throw some light on how did all this happen and how did a kitchen consultant today arrive to occupy an extremely important role in the hospitality business?
Thanks for your question. I hope, can you all hear me well?
Can we have one or two more mics here, please?
As you rightly said, sir, the neglecting section, why into commercial hotels or restaurants, even if you consider our residences, very unfortunately the area which was always neglected was the kitchen part of it. Identically, as you were asking, the kitchens in the initial stages were done by the chefs after they were recruited. The chefs were also not so-called literate chefs. They would come to the kitchens and talk about locating few chulas there, few tables here, having a dishwash area without addressing any standards in terms of hygienes, etc. It so happened that the need of a kitchen consultant happened into a grassroots level. I would say that there were two sectors. In case of a commercial kitchens which were for the luxury as a hotel, they always had a commercial kitchen designer coming from overseas, giving the standards to the kitchens, and they were built. But when it came to a grassroots level or a bottom of the pyramid area, it so happened that they had so-called term as kitchen cracking on the weekends. The kitchens were made by the chefs, and they did realize that in the earlier presentations which we saw from all the consultants, we are talking about the variety, we are talking about the volumes, and we are talking about the time span. These are the three factors. So either the time was not made, or the varieties were not produced, and the business was suffering. That is the time when they realize that it is not only about the person who cooks or he has the skills, but you need to have a mix of engineering knowledge also into it.